Greetings. Welcome everybody to Live Courageously podcast show number 4 of 2022 and the 20th show since I started in since when did I start? A year ago, 2022. So anyway, I chose the title of this show, Live Courageously, because that's been the conscious theme of my life for the last 2 years since the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, and an unconscious theme of my life for most of my life. And if you haven't seen the previous 19 podcasts with some of my amazing friends sharing their powerful stories of overcoming all odds and going on to live their best lives, you can watch them on John Duffy Live Courageously YouTube channel. And this show is about faith over fear. I mean, I believe fear is a reaction and it's a human reaction, but courage is a choice. And I suggest that you consciously choose courage to get through life and to deal with whatever life may throw at you in the future. Somebody put up a meme one time that I really think is kind of very good and kind of fits into the nature of the show. And it talks about the 6 types of courage: physical courage, social courage, moral courage, emotional courage, intellectual courage, and spiritual courage. And I think all those types of courages are courages that we can use in life and are important to use in those areas of our life. And so my guest today, I believe Mandy captures all those types of courage, and that's what's needed to live a good life in these crazy times. So let me introduce you today to my guest, my friend, and a producer on 2 feature films recently that she hired me on to line produce and to be part of her team. And Mandy June Turpin is a producer, an actor, a director based in Los Angeles. She holds a degree in theater, film, and television from the University of California, Los Angeles. Her producing credits include the feature films Merry Kiss Cam, streaming on Hulu now, and an award-winning film Sunny Daze, and the hilarious dark comedy Jess Plus None. Mandy is also in pre-production on a feature film Fleury, written directed by Michael Young, based on 7-time NHL All-Star Theo Fleury. And he Looking for Group is another film of hers, a coming-of-age comedy set in the world of video games. And also she completed another film, Body Language, that she produced from the creators of The Conjuring and Annabelle, and that was also filmed in Minnesota. Additional producing credits include the award-winning pilot series Doxxed, written and directed by Elaine Loh, the award-winning 10-episode series Uncorked, a web series in which she wrote, produced, and directed. Clearly, you can tell multi-talented. And her acting credits include many from 4 Good Days, directed by Rodrigo Garcia and starring Glen and Mila Kunis. Ready Players One, directed by Steven Spielberg. Powder Blue, starring Forrest, Whitaker, and Jessica Biel. The Sunday Horse, starring Ving Rhames, Nikki and William Shatner. And The Perfect Family, starring Kathleen Turner. TV credits include recurring guest star roles on Heathers, Jane the Virgin, The Bridge, Nashville, Rebel, in addition to guest roles on such shows as 9/11, Chicago Med, Bull, Hawaii Five-0, Chicago Med, Parenthood, NCIS, The Closer, The Fosters, Grey's Anatomy, Burn Notice, Longmire, The Fosters, House MD, Lost, 24, and Criminal Minds, and the hysterically funny web series The Fifth, out now on YouTube. Wow. So as a mouthful. Welcome, Mandy, to Live Courageously.
Thank you for having me. That makes me sound really old.
or just very, very busy, which you clearly have been and continue to be. So, one question I ask, always 2 questions of the guests when I start out. My first question is usually, do you remember the first time we met?
Oh my gosh.
What was it on?
It was on the feature film Sunday Horse. I remember getting cast and very quickly having to go to Atlanta. And I remember the first day, it was one of the first days you guys were filming, and I met you and Ronnie, and instantly it was like instantly there was this warmth on the set, and it was just this most amazing welcoming feeling to this movie that I spent 5 weeks in Atlanta working on. And it was wonderful. And I remember the first day, we had a little bit of a situation with one of the riders and a horse. And I remember looking over at you guys thinking, oh, yikes. And you very calmly and just composed, you guys go, it's all right. Get back up on the horse. We're making a movie and let's go. And I was like, okay, here we go. And so it was a wonderful experience the first time I met you. So,
well, I'm going to put up real quick. And then if you don't mind, I'm going to, because you played a great role in the movie and you had a character that was like, was just amazing. So I'm going to throw up a quick trailer, but let me just show some quick pictures so people get an idea. And like you said, here's a picture of you with Ving Rhames.
Brunette.
Remember that one?
Yeah. Different hair color, but same person.
Yes, indeed. And this is in the stands.
Yeah.
With William Shatner. Here's another one after when we screened it with the director Vic Armstrong and the woman that it was about. And then your hair color changed on that one.
Yeah.
That was a little bit later. And so I'm gonna play real quick that trailer because you have a great part in it, and I just want to share that because, like you said, we met on that in that moment when that actress got thrown from the horse. Of course, we all freaked internally, but externally, it looked like we were very calm because we had to be, and we rushed out into it and we dealt with it and solved the problem, and everything went smooth. And it was kind of like that throughout the whole movie. It was challenging at times, I must admit. So let me
really quick before you do that, that's one of the things that impressed me so much about you guys was, especially now producing, and I was not producing at the time, just how amazing an experience it was and how everyone was having such a great time and the movie seemed to be going so well, and not knowing kind of what was going on behind closed doors of the screen and how much you guys had to deal with as producers, but you never let on to anybody else outside of your circle between you and Ronnie and maybe your line producer, or I'm sorry, maybe your first AD. But that to me was such an inspiration as a producer, just to realize that, no matter what you're dealing with, the show must go on, and make sure that everybody around is taken care of. And I think that was kind of the first real experience that I had watching a producer do kind of what I hope to do in the future. And that was great. So
and the producer, Ronnie Clemmer, who you mentioned, was clearly my partner. I've done a couple of movies with him. Fantastic. And just an all around amazing human being. So yeah, it was such an honor for me to work with him again on that movie and have you part of it. So let me throw up this real quick so people can take a look at this screen, and we will get that going. And I think you can see it up. Can you see it up there?
I can't. No.
You can't. Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, because you got to share it, right? There you go. All right, here we go.
Sandra runs the farm here. You'll do whatever she wants, be it training a horse, hauling hay.
I'm not afraid of hard work, Mr. Valentine.
Welcome to the family, Debbie.
Elise, that's Miss Dumar. Please, I'm light years away from being impressed by you.
You can learn a lot from riding a horse. You can learn just as much from watching someone else.
Show jumping is not for the masses. That's why they invented roller derby. She is why they invented roller derby.
Now listen, if you wanted to ride, you'd have found a way. I know there's horses you could get for a couple grand, maybe even less, and you could make them competitive.
If I can find a horse, train me. If you're so convinced I have a gift, help me develop it.
All right then.
You serious?
We'll see how serious you prove to be.
Telling you, Mama, me and this horse were meant to be together.
I would like to be this horse.
Whoa!
This is my mother, Bobby. I brought her to meet the evangelist. That's what I'm going to name him, A grand.
15 missing, that's all she wrote. No man's going to be able to ride her.
Oh, for God's sakes, Kenneth, just write the man a check.
Debbie Wall to win the Washington International Cup.
Debbie!
Is Debbie going to be all right?
There seems to be some paralysis of the left side. I have to stay at Trinity.
Why? You go and get yourself almost killed.
The evangelist needs me. I need him.
It's not like you're ever going to ride again.
I will ride again. We got Sunday horse written all over us, and we're going to show him. We're going to show him how it's done.
If you take this turn, you're only going to give yourself 2 strides to get to that final fence. With your condition, you cannot risk another fall.
You changed my life. I won't ever forget what you've done for me.
After almost dying, after learning to walk again, after all of us telling her she should quit.
Let's go show him how no chance girl and the last chance to get it done.
Our girl is competing again, and we're going to support her.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yes, indeed, right? I mean, and
yeah,
you know, I'm going to pivot a second and come back to that, but there's a great line that you have in there that we always remember, your character's line. Do you want to share it? Because we always enjoy, because it's powerful.
I think I turned around to him and I said, "You're looking at a woman who didn't cry when Old Yeller got shot."
Exactly. You were the tough owner of this barn, the tough owner of all these horses. But you personally, I mean, besides, playing such a great role in the movie and us becoming friends and getting to know you because of it, and obviously that friendship's continued throughout the years, you were somebody who's been involved in equestrian personally. So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, you weren't somebody who just faked it for the part. You had a real experience in your life as a equestrian rider yourself.
Oh gosh, yeah. I think as early as I can remember, probably 7, 8. My dad was in the military for a long time, and we lived down in San Diego, in San Diego County, and he worked on Camp Pendleton, and they had a stable there. And back in the day, us latchkey kids, I'd get dropped off at the barn in the morning, and my mom and dad would go to work during the summer, and after work they'd pick me up, and it would be, there'd be a bunch of kids that experienced that. And we literally were at the barn for like 8 hours in the summertime. It was wonderful. We kind of grew up around them. We knew, we learned, how wonderful these animals were, how therapeutic they were. Which is very ironic because, having horses at the Equestrian Center in Burbank, William Shatner had a program there that he helped, kids with disabilities with, riding and stuff and that was a wonderful, program that he had, just to show how amazing horses, are for humans. I mean, they do inner city programs with the horses. I know they do disabled vets. They do all kinds of different things with horses. And I think, just having them and having that experience at such a young age, and just, there's nothing like being on the hill overlooking Los Angeles with just you and your horse going, oh my God, like I live in Los Angeles. I'm working in the entertainment industry. It's the most amazing feeling. And so I was really grateful for it, these last 20 odd years. So,
well, and you're right. I mean, William Shatner and his wife had done all that equine therapy with veterans over at your barn over in Burbank. And he talked about that with us when we were down there. But what was special about that, I would say that movie for me, I did a lot of movies up until that point, but that movie was one of the most special ones because it was based on a true story. And it was based on a true story of a woman who overcame all the odds, who never gave up, who had that courage within her, that when she should have quit, she didn't quit. When everybody told her to quit, she just kept going. When the doctors told her you can't ride anymore, she just made believe she didn't hear them, because she was determined against all odds to find the courage within her and to do it. And so for all of us to kind of come together, yourself and me and Ronnie and Vic, it kind of echoed who we want to be and who we are in our lives. So I think you represent that because, out of that Lou movie that brought us together, and told that great story of overcoming, your life then continued to go into a direction of recreating yourself and going from acting to producing. And so, but before we jump into the jump forward, tell us a little bit about the acting, because you've had such a amazing acting career, being in all, I just got tired reading all the shows that you were in. But, what was that like for you? And what was that experience going through that for so many years of your life?
Well, the funny thing is, if you talk to anybody in high school, they were like, "You're an actor? That's so weird." I mean, I wanted to be a lawyer. Like I remember coming to my mom one day and saying, "Yeah, I think I want to start being a lawyer." And she goes, "Mandy, the world has enough lawyers." And I was like, "Oh, I think I kind of want to do that." And then just the way that my life kind of changed out of high school, going to Northern California, meeting all of my friends up there, and then being in school up there and having a professor say, "Well, if you want to be you want to be a trial lawyer, acting class is great." And all of a sudden I got the bug. And then I decided I transferred to UCLA, met my wonderful best friends that I have had forever, Antonia Beth, Grace Lee. And then it just kind of started, and I loved it. And I never want to say that acting is a therapy, but I remember doing a play one time called The Marriage of Bet and Boo. And it was a theater up in Northern California. And I remember walking out of the theater, and this elderly gentleman came up to me and he goes, "Oh my God, I'm taking this class at the junior college, and they told us to go to theater. And this was the first time I went to live theater, and you made me laugh and you made me cry. I didn't understand the play, but I just enjoyed it so much." And I stopped in my tracks and I was like, "Oh my God, you mean you can like evoke emotion in people and you can have them escape for a night? Well, I love this. This is great. We're going to help people." And then I just kind of went from there. And then I transferred to UCLA and started there in their theater, film, and television department. Had some great professors, left there. Didn't work as an actor for a long time, just because like when you leave college and you're not really sure what's going on. And I did a lot of interning in casting and met a lot of wonderful, amazing people, because I believe casting is the backbone to this industry. And then just started working, and then got a great manager. I think he was an agent at the time, Todd Justice. And then I just started acting, and I started taking workshops, and I started, and again, I believe actors are those interesting human beings where it's kind of like, Nikki in A Sunday Horse. You fall off that horse so many times, and you have to get back up, and you have to get back up, because it is one of the only industries that you can hear no, not only just once a day, but like 2 and 3 times a day, or if if you're lucky enough to have these auditions. And so for me, I felt so blessed to be able to work so much as I did, but it wasn't easy. And I did a lot of work to get there, and a lot of classes, a lot of workshops, a lot of volunteering, a lot of internships, a lot of that kind of thing, just trying to learn the business. And so I consider myself very blessed. And I had I have great teams. I mentioned Todd. I'm with Clear Talent right now. They're great. They are very supportive. And again, I met some amazing casting directors in my career, that internship that I worked in their office, that I got to learn a lot of stuff, and even train casting, that was, so that was a really interesting perspective on that business. And just realizing that, it is one of those businesses where, even now I have friends that go, "My kid wants to," I'm like, it's a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's, it's a mental marathon. But when you can do it, it's great.
I think that, lessons from it, obviously you just kind of stressed and talked about, is the amount of rejection you get, and depending on how many auditions you get, it can be a lot more than otherwise. But being able to handle rejection, to keep going, to stay strong when basically it doesn't look positive for you, and like you said, when you tell friends and people who want to get into it, and those are the lessons I think you learned for your life, not giving up, being determined and putting in the work. Because if you don't put in the work and you just expect it to happen, well, it's not going to happen. It just, unless miracle, you get lucky. But most people, that it isn't that how it works. You put in the work, you do the training, you get good at it. You push yourself, you get out there and you hustle to get the work. And I know you, in your career, you hustled nonstop to get the work. You were a force of nature because, people sometimes think, well, I got an agent, my agent will get it from me. Good luck with that, right? You have to do so much. It's on you. It's your life. It's you, and having the strength to keep going. So tell us a little bit about that. Because
it's really funny, and I do, and it's taken me a long time. I just had a conversation with a friend the other day on a hike, saying it's taken me a long time to be unapologetic about how hard I've worked and where I am right now. But I'll tell you, sometimes working as hard as you do, and it also hurts some relationships in the idea that sometimes you have to let people do their jobs, and that's another thing. You just brought up the agent thing. It's hard to realize that in this business, you have so many people that are the shepherds of your career. Because not only do you have to have an agent or a manager, but then you have the casting, you have all these doors that need to be open, but then you have directors and you have producers and you have all this stuff. So I think going through all that experience made me a better producer, because I understand that you're on my set right now. I know how hard it was to get there. Now, it also, on the flip side, makes me less of the producer that's like, I guess, I'm hesitating to say this, but not so much an actor's producer, because I know that if you're there are a lot of other people that could be here too, but we're lucky to be there, and you have to treat it that way. And if you don't, then you're not only disrespecting the project, but you're also disrespecting my grips and my gaffers and my transpo and my, my line producers and my ADs, because it is a difficult business, and there are a lot of people that want to do it, that work very hard, that aren't where you are right now. So that also put that in my heart, going, be grateful, work hard, but you have to be grateful, because it is about being in the right place at the right time, and sometimes working, as Larry Bird, and I'm sure somebody else said it before him, the harder you work, the luckier you are. It's a huge thing, even in sports, so I think that's what taught me. And that was my dad, who said, there's always going to be somebody better than you. And so you either show up and stake your place, or you sit in the bleachers and watch. So I think that's really important to me.
And you did all this great acting, all those lessons. And I think the lessons that you're sharing about that are great. And the gratitude is important too, because you've been on different sides of the business, not just one side. So you got to see, what it is. And gratitude is such an important thing for all of us to understand, because it takes a team to do it. And that now as a producer. But when did you, after all that acting, all that great experience, obviously you had plenty of opportunities to continue just doing that and not pivot, but you chose to pivot and start to produce projects. What took you there, and take us on that journey?
Well, I had breast cancer in my early 30s, and I had gotten married, and literally like a year later. And so I decided to take a little time off of acting, just because, going through, and I was lucky, I didn't have to go through all the chemo and stuff that some other people did. So again, I feel very blessed about that. But I started, doing more things on set, and I worked on a show called Luck, and it was Michael Mann, David Milch. And I remember being there one day, and in this conversation, kind of peripherally, and I'm listening. And then I kind of was saying something, and I kind of caught myself, because I'm standing around all these big producers and stuff like that. And, I get a glance from Michael, and he kind of just smiled. And so that kind of, and then one day he says to me, you sound like a producer. And I was like, I'm an actor. He's like, you sound like a producer. I'm an actor. And then he goes, yeah, okay, well, and then, just kind of watching, then that progressed into being on other shows behind the scenes and stuff. And then I was like, wow, I can hire my friends, and I can give people jobs, and I can, I can help people, and I can teach people. And it just all of a sudden became this like amazing thing. And then when I started getting projects, friends going, hey, do you want to produce this? And, I did a web series that you had mentioned earlier called Uncorked with 5 other women. And I was lucky enough to write and direct on that. And, we all kind of wrote episodes and some of us directed. And it was an unbelievable experience. It had its highs and it had its real lows. But when it was all done, I looked around at these women and I was like, look what we're doing. And then Elaine Loh came to me, and we did this this little web series called Doxxed, and it was so wonderful. And Elaine was so amazing. And we took it to the Duluth Film Festival, and we won the comedy part of the festival. And I fell in love with Duluth. And right away, then I was like, I want to produce, just because I loved the idea of this team atmosphere. And again, and I don't know if I can say that I was ignorant to the actual progress or the progression of being a producer, but I just so excited about the idea of inception to, it was just this wonderful idea of like being in this team sport of creating something. And then it just kind of went from there. I kept continuing to act because, we all need to make a living. And then I did Sunny Days with Jason Wiles and Michael Beach. And then I just did another one, Jess Plus None with Mandy Fabian and Patrick Fabian. And then I started producing for Fox Mar Vista, and that's kind of where I am today. And it was just this wonderful kind of transition from acting to producing.
And with that journey, like you said, you took on another identity. You went from, no, I'm an actor, to I'm a producer now. And then, and part of it was, trying to give friends an opportunity. And then you mentioned Duluth, and I want to go a little bit further, but I want to show the trailer for Merry Kiss Cam, because it was, and we'll talk about it because it was such a great experience. And then I'm going to pivot back to some of your other journey beyond the film industry. But I'd love to put this up because I think it was such a fun experience, and you kind of championed it. You brought it to Duluth. You brought this passion for Duluth, passion for filming there, and you brought all that to it. So let the audience take a look at this, and then you can share some stories about it. Give me a sec. And here we go.
Fans always have.
What do you get if Shannon goes down the chimney when the fire is lit?
Crisp Gringo.
Girl that came in last night.
The Pinot drinker you were drooling over?
When you guys gonna get married?
Okay, slow down. He was wearing a Moose t-shirt and he smelled like beer.
That's a Minnesota sex symbol for most women around here.
You seem to become a big in this town. I'm not laughing.
You guys are really blaming this on me.
Yes! Really know how to kick a guy when he's down.
I told you, you had to go screw it up.
Sorry, bud.
Wow.
Show canceled.
Wait, show canceled? Why didn't you tell me? BB? It's you?
Falling for me, huh?
Laid head over heels in love.
Lovett entered a plea of not guilty murder of Duke graduate student Abhijit Mahato of UNC.
Oh, sorry.
That's not part of Merry Kiss Cam.
No, it's not. You know what this is? I'm going to have to cut it there. That is the news from that station in Duluth, and they cut into my thing. All right, we'll stop it there. But we saw enough of Merry Kiss Cam. Unfortunately, the station cut into that. That's weird. But anyway, so Merry Kiss Cam, you won a contest in Duluth. You fell in love with this town in Minnesota, and you decided to take a story that was set in Chicago, turn it into a story in Duluth, and Merry Kiss Cam. And I can't show the rest of it. It's fantastic. It's on Hulu. Watch it, and you'll really enjoy it. It's a love story to Duluth. But tell us how you championed that and why you fought against all the odds to bring it there, and what that experience was like for you.
You know, it's so funny because it happened very quickly. It was like one day I was not producing, and the next day I'm like, honey, I think I'm taking a movie to Duluth. You know, it's funny. We went to the Catalyst Film Festival and one with Doxxed, and I met Ricky McManus and Philip and Gilpin, and it was wonderful. Beautiful little city. You know, pre-pandemic 2019, right on Lake Superior. And then the pandemic happened, and then we went back with another project after the pandemic and met Sherry Marshik also, and I just fell in love with it. And you know, my first intention was to take Fleury, which is based on Theo Fleury, the hockey movie that I'm partnering with Michael Young. And then I started kind of realizing, wow, there's a lot of opportunity here. Beautiful locations. They're super accommodating. So wonderful. The women are, and everybody there are just amazing. And so they gave me the script for Chicago. I said, is it any way we can change it to, you know, Duluth and use, you know, college hockey? And everybody was very accommodating at Mar Vista and Fox and said, sure. So we, you know, we landed, we scouted in April where there was snow, and we went back in May, and we made a movie, and it aired on Hulu. I mean, as you remember, it was a very quick 15 days. It was a marathon, if there ever was one. But it was wonderful. You know, Lisa France is the director. We hired a lot of local people, which was wonderful. Kyle Moe, the DP, Sherry Anderson, you know, Curtis Anderson. We were able to hire so many wonderful local people, and that made it happen. You know, I wish there's just a litany of people, Keely Gillinew. I mean, you know, it's just, there's so many wonderful people there that want to have production come and make an economic impact in their little city, that it just made it easy as a decision to go on and try to bring as much production to Minnesota as we possibly can. So that's kind of how that happened.
Well, you know, I mean, I think the thing too was it was such a great experience, and then it gets better because I mean, making it was amazing. It was such a great experience working with you on it. 15 days, which for people who don't work in the industry, that's like a second. It should. I mean, you don't make movies in 15 days usually. So, and we had 3 days of ice hockey
and locations and
and the stuff Mandy put together all behind the scenes to make this all happen with the team. It was fantastic. And so we pull this movie off. Everybody does a great job. We have a great movie. And next thing it's on Hulu. And so we leave, we come back to LA. And then I'm like, okay, Mandy's like, we're going to go back and do some more. I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay, whatever. And then a couple of months later, Mandy's calling me saying, we're going back to Duluth to do another movie. So we get to go back, but to stay with this one, we end up getting to screen Merry Kiss Camp in Duluth on the big screen for the people there while we're making the second movie. I mean, it's pretty magical, and Duluth's a pretty magical place. But go ahead, you take it from there.
No, it was. And, you know, it was funny because I think this happened so quickly that we were like, you know, Neil Ellman and Lisa and I, especially when we were doing the post, you know, didn't realize how supportive Duluth was going to be. I mean, you know, all the interviews, all the, you know, how exciting they are to have production there. And how much PR the people of Duluth did to support this movie. And, you know, it was so wonderful just to be in a place where it was so celebrated, and everybody, you know, and we did. It was a love letter to Duluth. We used all the locations. We, you know, Carmody's, you know, Eddie Gleason, we used the bar. We didn't change the name. We actually changed the name of the character in the script to match the bar. And, you know, and we used local businesses. So it takes me back to, it's a team sport, and what we're really doing is, you know, the economic impact that we're having on these smaller towns is amazing. And I think that's what, you know, is exciting to work on these movies.
You know, and the other thing I think what you're saying too, it's all that, Mandy, and then atmosphere that you created and that we all got to participate and support was, you know, coming back and doing Body Language and doing the second movie there, Thriller, which mentioned in the opening. You know, all the crew that worked with us on the first one wanted to come back and work with us on the second one, because we treated people and we built relationships with people that was appreciative and grateful for the team. And you brought that spirit to it. So when people, you know, when we came back, it wasn't like, you know, we had a hard time finding people, even though sometimes that is a challenge. It was people wanted to work with us because you left a good atmosphere with them, and that's what happened. So we were able to come back and do it successfully a second time as well.
Well, you know, and that's, you know, I think being on so many different sets and having so many different people as examples, you know, it's funny. I think Body Language presented a couple more obstacles that we had to deal with that I'd never dealt with on movies. And it was just one of those things that when I laid my head on the pillow at night, it was kind of like, okay, we made it through another day. Everybody was great, everything. And it was just, and I did feel like it's always that team atmosphere. You know, the joke was on set is that if anybody came to us and said, we've got a problem, our first thing was, did anybody die? No, then we can make anything work. We can fix anything. Don't worry about it. And, you know, and it was funny because that was always a thing that I'm so proud of all of our team, you, AJ, you know, Judd, Ryan, when he worked on Mary Kiss Cam, was we never said, we never yelled, we never screamed, we never got mad at people for any of the mistakes that were made, you know, because a lot of times they're mistakes because they've never done it before. And I think that's kind of the exciting part too about Minnesota, is not that they haven't had production there, because they have a lot of production and stuff, but some of the people that we got to work with, this was the first time that they were on set. And, you know, and then at the very end of the day, when it comes down and you're getting notes in the mail going, oh my God, you guys all changed my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And now I know what I want to do. And just setting an example for that is that we can do that in this business. And, you know, in any business, I'm sure it's, you know, it's difficult and you run up against people that aren't always the best team players. But that's, I think, what we pride ourselves on with our team that we created was we did that, you know, and we wanted people to know that, look, this is a new thing for people. This is very quick. We want to be able to help, you know, kind of foster that kind of, you know, filmmaker team effort in what we did. And I think that's what made it so wonderful that people wanted to come back, you know.
Absolutely. Well, you know, we could talk about this and we could talk about both movies. I mean, the experiences we have for, you know, much more than this show, and I'd like to, but I also want to kind of go in a different direction because, you know, besides all the glitz and glamour of, and I call it glitz and glamour being a little bit funny about that, but the glitz and glamour of, you know, acting and producing and all that stuff, there's another side to Mandy. And I've, you know, had a chance by working with her, especially on these last two films, to get to know the other side and the courageous side in many other aspects, because sometimes people just see one side of us or one part of us, one identity, and they don't know there's a lot more of who we are. And I love, because the show is about courage, love to bring some of that out. And you kind of mentioned one piece of it, and then I want to go into some other stuff that you do that not everybody knows or some people know, but that just kind of reflects on who you are as a person and brings out your other side. I mean, you talk about the battle with cancer and overcoming that, and I know you share with me that you have a good group of women survivors of cancer that have become lifelong friends in that struggle to overcome cancer. So that's one other piece of who Mandy is that I got to know a little bit, you know, obviously. So maybe share a little bit of that and what that means for your life and the group that you built out of it and the friendships that you built out of that overcoming struggle.
Yeah, you know, it was a shock because, again, my mother passed pretty suddenly after I was married. So I didn't, you know, so that was, oh my gosh, it's been 20 years now. So, you know, and my mother and I learned a lot from my mother because, you know, she wasn't much of somebody who would share a lot of personal stuff, you know, and so I didn't know a lot about her medical history and all that stuff, you know, in England and all that. And so when I was young and I was diagnosed with the tumor, right after I got married, it was a shock to the system, and I didn't know. And, you hear the word cancer and you're like, what? I'm too young for this. And so it was a journey, and I'm very thankful for my husband, Rob, because one of the most supportive, I can go on about that man. He's my rock, and he is a support system like nobody's business. And so, it was one of those things I dealt with at an early age, trying to start a career, trying to do all this stuff. And, you start to surround yourself by these people. And one of my dear friends at the time, Katie Darcy, I had been diagnosed, and I had just had my first lumpectomy and surgery. And she's like, we're doing the breast cancer walk. And we literally 2 months later or 3 months later ended up doing this breast cancer walk and meeting all these amazing, wonderful people. And then we just continued to do the Avon walk for years, and just meeting these wonderful women that were just like, they weren't quitting. It wasn't a death sentence to them, even though some of them did not survive their disease. It still wasn't. And so that in itself was so inspiring. And I think that also changed my life, in the idea that I was like, look, this isn't going to beat me. And, and I'm going to fight it no matter what. And, and so if I can do this, then life itself is, come on, we can do anything, say yes to anything. And I think that's what that did for me. But, that experience, I never want to say I'm glad I had that experience, because you never want to go through that. But it just showed me that, if you're strong and you have faith and you surround yourself by amazing people, you can get through a lot in life, and not give up, and when you do want to give up, you got the people yelling at you, and smacking you upside the head going, what are you doing? And you're very grateful for that. Maybe not at the moment that they're doing it, but you become, and then, you are very grateful. And the people like Katie and Antonia and Christina and all my dear friends that did that for me, I'm very grateful. So that was a big deal in my life.
And then, you told me that you, besides all the other stuff, and I'm just kind of sharing stuff that I learned from you hanging out with you in Duluth, Minnesota. Who really, well, I'm going to mention that thing too, but I'll save that for later. She knows what I'm talking about. It's a bowl, but I'll leave it there. But seriously, you also mentioned, doing a triathlon, and you told me a story about that I'd love you to share with the audience, because I'm like, a triathlon, really? Not something that I would do or have done. So I was impressed just from the start, but the stories gets even better. So go ahead, share that.
Okay. So the funny thing was, a friend of mine, Sabrina Wind, who is a producer in town, and I knew her because I'd auditioned for a lot of the shows that she was on, and she had known that I had gotten breast cancer, and she does this thing, this group with doing triathlons. She's like, hey, you should come do a triathlon. I was like, yeah, I'm athletic. I'm sure I can do that. Absolutely having no idea what a triathlon entailed at all. Like I was like, yeah, swimming, running, whatever, I can do that. So I started, and I was like, what do you mean 9 months out? Whatever, and my first time in the pool, I was like, I have to swim how far? And the guy looked at me and he goes, yeah, you don't know how to swim. I go, no, I know how to swim. He goes, no, you know how to survive in the water, and you play and can, but you don't really know how to swim. And I was like, okay. So then the next 6 months, I proceeded to learn how to swim. Wow. And then we'd run and we'd bike and we'd do all this stuff. And so it came down to the day we're doing the Malibu triathlon, and they put you in all these groups, and it was age groups and different stuff, and so you're off, and you the first thing you do is you do the swim, and it's and that day it happened to be really clear, but the tide was kind of going against us and everything, and I always thought to myself, if a shark's going to come eat me, I don't want the water to be clear. Let it just be this, and so that freaked me out a little bit. And so we get in the water, and we're going, and I'm like, I'm having a time. Like I'd like to say that Mandy did this, montage of she became, Michael Phelps. She did not. So we're going and we're swimming. And at one point I kind of stopped, and I'm doing like every stroke you can imagine, trying to get, this. And there's like no one around me. And I was like, okay. So then what happened was I'm going and of course the tears are starting to come. So I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And this gentleman is passing me, and he is, he has no arm, and he's amputee, and he is passing me, and quite steadily, like just going by me. And I looked and I stopped, and it was this moment that came after me. And I said, do not give up. If that man can do that and swim by you and not only swim, but run and ride a bike. And all I kept thinking was, and I'm going to get a little teary now, is he's swimming by me and he's not giving up. And I am not going to give up. And it was one of those moments in my life that, like, whatever you believe in, faith, whatever, came down and like not tapped me on the head, but hit me on the head and said, really, you're going to give up? And so I started swimming, and I'm not kidding you. I'm crying. And there are these lifeguards that are like, and I'm like, don't touch me. Because once they touch you, you're done. Like, you have to leave and the triathlon's gone. So I'm swimming. And I turn the thing and I see the shore, and I'm crying out of, we can do this. And at this point, the gentleman is like up, getting on his bike, going. And I see the sand, and I get there, and the trainers for this program were so amazing, and they were there, and I hit the sand, and all I could do was face first go in it. And I thought to myself, and it was that moment in my life that I'm like, you're not giving up ever. I don't care. You were blessed. You were lucky. It doesn't matter what obstacles are in your way. That man that you just saw, whether he was a figment of my imagination, whatever it was, he never gave up. And it was just that moment in me that just went, oh, wow, that I am exactly where I'm supposed to be right now to learn that lesson of you have 2 arms, 2 legs, you can do anything you put your mind to. And that to me was one of those things. But, and I tell the story now because I tell it in a funny way, because I'm like, yeah, it was so bad that somebody, passed me. But it was such a heart-changing, life-changing experience for me. And I thank Sabrina Wind, because, I would have never done that if she didn't, suggest me doing that. But it was amazing, and then the bike and the run and everything. So.
Well, I know when you told me that story, it was so powerful, because you're right. And then that message that you're sharing, to not give up, that, that lesson that touched you, that moment, to not give up. Last weekend, I saw a guy, Nick Verjak, who was born without arms and legs, and he's a motivational speaker, and he's mind-boggling. He just, once again, he shares the message of what you can do in life. And he obviously was born with no arms, no legs, and yet it didn't impact his life. And he said at first he didn't believe he could have a family or kids or a wife. Well, he's got a wife, he has 4 kids, and he's traveled the world and changed people's lives. So not give up, that message from you, that moment that in the water, that realized that it wasn't just about that. Yeah, don't give up in the water, but don't give up in life. And I think that's a powerful message. I know when you shared that with me, it was super powerful. So, the other thing I want to kind of, and we're kind of running towards time, and I want to share another big, or 2 other big parts of you is, a big part of what you do too is something that I think we all can learn from, which is service, is being able to serve others, to donate your time, volunteer, make a difference in people's lives. And that's another big part of who you are. You volunteer with foster kids, and you have had for a long time. So share a little bit about that. What got you there, and what does that give you? Because, there's a saying that the gift of living is given, and, you give by volunteering and helping. So share a little bit of that story. Living is given.
Well, it was really funny, because it started at UCLA, because UCLA used to have this program called Big Sister, Big Brother. And it was Bruin Partners did it. And you'd volunteer, and you'd become like a mentor to a kid in inner city Los Angeles, during when you're at college. And I did it for a couple of years, and I was partnered with a couple of kids. The first one was a young gentleman who I had taken to a lot of, I'd taken to the beach for the first time, and he lives in Los Angeles, and he's like, I've never been to the beach. And it was just one of those things where I was like, and again, it takes me back to there are days when I don't want to get out of bed, or there are days when I don't think, and then I have to think to myself, no, you're here today you could help somebody, you can change somebody's life. You know, you may not think your life is going the way you want it to go, but if you get out of bed and you go out and you do something, you volunteer, you do it, you can change somebody else's life. So don't always think about your life. Don't always think about you. And so then a friend of mine, Mandy Fabian, who I mentioned earlier, there was this thing called Kids in the Spotlight, and they do it's a script to screen kind of program for these foster kids, where they bring professionals from Hollywood, and you work with them, and they write scripts, and it was kind of, again, another experience where you got to meet these kids who live in a facility, and they got to storytell. You got to help them tell their story. And let me tell you, some of those scripts were so amazing that I'm just like, oh my God. And so we continue to do that program. And then, you know, anytime I can go out and, you know, I did a lot of the Meals on Wheels, Burbank has a big food shelter here downtown. There's a lot of opportunity to volunteer, but the foster kid thing to me is so important, because I think when we teach kids at a young age, they don't have anyone to count on, that there's nobody there to support them, then what do they have to lose? And they don't have anything to lose. And I think, you know, I'm not lucky enough to have kids because, you know, of having cancer for so much in my life. And I realized that if we don't give the kids the foundation to think that somebody's there to help them, then they're lost, and they don't feel like they have a future. And so for the foster kid, the foster organizations are so important, because we do need volunteers. We do need, you know, there are a lot of foster kids who have made it successful, not only in the entertainment industry, but in a lot of other industries. And I think if we don't give back, or we don't go and help these kids, you know, then what are we doing? Because, you know, you see a lot of the things in the news and stuff, and it's a lot of these kids who didn't have support. And, you know, and there was a young girl, and I'll tell just a teeny tiny story, where she had been in a foster care system for a while, and she didn't really speak to a lot of people. And she got to a point where, you know, there's certain conversations you have to have with girls at a certain age in their lives. And I remember having this conversation with her, and her crying. And it was my first experience. And she just goes, you know, that's all I need. I just need someone to say it's going to be okay. Wow. And it was one of those things where I was like, holy cow. And I said, it's going to be hard. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, and I think that if we can give anybody, or especially children, the idea that, you know, or the faith, and that, I think that's what's the most important thing about what we do, you know. And again, it's just the support, and it's the idea that life is hard. It's hard for everybody. And I think that was another, and I'm sorry that I get so emotional when I talk about this. I think that's the thing that especially with the children is, you know, people see all this social media stuff and they think, oh my God, everyone's life is so good. And I always say, no. That's their life on, you know, social media. That is not their life in real life. And 100%. And we have to, I think, especially in Hollywood and in life, adults teach kids that, you know, you make the life that you lead, and it's not always, and sometimes it's not pretty, and sometimes, you know, but we have to accept who we are and what you know, what life's given us, and we can overcome that stuff. So I think that's why it's so important for anybody to go and volunteer. You know, TIG Charity, who does Kids in the Spotlight, huge organization. It's so wonderful. And, you know, and, you know, had a great experience with them. But there's a lot of organizations out there that need volunteers, and, you know, and again, you can do it on a daily thing. You can call up any of these places and go, hey, I have a day to volunteer, and they'll let you do, you know, so it's a great feeling that you can give back to things like that. So
100%. And I think that, you know, that was a big part of obviously us working together was why I wanted you on the show, and the, you know, some of the fun stuff we did in film and all that. But I think the more important reason I wanted you on the show was these reasons: your message of service, your message of volunteering, your message of helping others. and giving back and being grateful, because I think that's what people need to hear more of now more than ever. And so I congratulate you for consistently making that a big part of your life, because, you know, even if you touch one person's life, that's very important. And you know, obviously the more chances you get, the more chances you get to touch somebody's life and maybe make somebody's life who's harder than yours better. So thank you. I think it's a good model for people to follow. And I'm going to wrap up with something that's very special to you, and we all found out about it if we didn't know, which is your dad, who is a military veteran and always would have the experience on the set constantly, because Mandy was always in touch with him via phone, via Facebook, or, you know, a live and whatever. And she would share it around to the whole crew and have us say hello to him and talk to him, and just always make that human connection when she wasn't with him personally. And I just think that I was just always amazed by that, you know, that specialness that you, how much you gave to that. And so share a little bit about that and about him, because he's a really cool guy, obviously.
Yeah, everybody, if you're friends with me on Facebook, you know, or Instagram, you know how much, how close I am to my father. Well, he just turned 87 yesterday. We'd thrown him a birthday,
Happy
week
birthday
ago,
to him.
Yep. You know, my dad was in the military for my entire life. So, and the man, and I can absolutely say the man was never unemployed, which to me is such an inspiration, because, you know, I remember growing up and he had 2 or 3 jobs. You know, he'd work at night, you know, he did civil service. And he also was the one who taught me how to throw a softball and a baseball and a football, and, you know, and forgave a lot of my mischief when I was younger, and just, you know, always taught me and always would say these zingers. You know, it was an interesting situation growing up with him, because my dad went to the 6th grade. Like, he didn't, you know, he went to the military. He faked his high school I don't want to say that out loud. But he, you know, his GED, and he got into the military and stuff at a young age. And he was always kind of this hero. You know, we lived a very middle-class life. You know, I when I was 16, I got a car. They couldn't afford it, but I got it anyway. You know, they tried very hard to give me a life that, you know, they didn't have themselves. And so I always respected that about my dad. And he was never this guy that, you know, was showy. He didn't do any, you know, he was just this really great man who showed up every day, went to my games, you know, supported me, and just did everything, you know, that he possibly could. And so as he's gotten older, and now he lives in Arizona in a wonderful place called Inspira, with my stepmother, Judy. I'm realizing even at that age, they need as much help as we do. And when I say as much help, I mean like the hellos every day, that, you know, and I actually pay attention more to like elderly people in our communities now. You know, it's very important that, you know, Rob always laughs at me when, you know, we're at the Costco parking lot. If there's somebody putting something in their car that they can't do, I'm always eager to help them, because, you know, especially if they're older, because, you know, my father, I always hope that somebody would do that for my father. And so like I said, he makes him happy when I'm on FaceTime and he gets to see what I'm doing, because he has no idea what it's like to be in the business. You know, he watches a movie and he's like, oh, so it says your name on the front. So are you going to be are you acting in this? And I was like, no, Dad. He's like, oh, so what do you do? And I was like, and I go, I don't have enough time to, you know. So he's just wonderful, supportive, amazing guy that I just, you know, and his military, you know, he is such a supporter of the military, this man. And St. Jude's, oh my God, don't even get me started about St. Jude's. But he's just he's just loves this country, and he couldn't be prouder. And he came from nothing, and, you know, and it's just, he makes me proud every day. And that's, you know, if I can make him proud and live up to, you know, the sacrifices that he's made. You know, it used to be, I guess, in every family, you had somebody that was in the military at some point in your life. And now there's less people that have that. And, you know, if I can just explain to them what sacrifices people make. I mean, you know, my dad was away from us for 18 months at some point, you know, but he was doing that to support his family and to support a country that he loves. And I appreciate that.
Well, I think that's a powerful note to end on. Thank you so much, Mandy. I mean, I think you took us through a great journey of the film industry, acting, and life, but more importantly, being courageous, being strong, appreciating people, having gratitude, looking out for others, looking out for the elderly, helping young people. I mean, just that whole package. I mean, I think you shared a powerful message, and I'm honored to have you as a friend, honored to work with you. I've had a great time with you in 2 movies now, and obviously 3 movies, one when you acted in, and then 2 others. So it's been a great journey. Anything you would like to finish up and say and share with people as we close it up? And once again, thank you so much for being part of this.
Well, I got to tell you, if anybody's inspiring to anybody, it's you. You do a lot of stuff with the military. You are. I have to tell you, John, and again, I'm just going to say this, and I've said this to you privately and publicly, is, you're one of the most inspiring, outgoing, positive people I've ever met. And so, you're pure inspiration. And there's a lot of times that in these movies, I was like, what am I doing? And you just said, nope, you can do it. Come on. You can. And so I appreciate you and am grateful that I know you. So I appreciate it.
Well, I think we're both blessed to have come together on a Sunday Horse. Pretty interesting experience that brought us to here today. And so I think I know I'm blessed by that experience that have you in my life. And thank you so much. And I know you got other projects coming up, other movies like Theo Fleury. And you've also been a champion for Minnesota and Duluth, Minnesota. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of you. And hopefully I'm going to work with you on a lot more in the future. How would people contact you? What's the best way to reach out to you, or how to, if anybody wanted to reach out?
They could reach out on Instagram, private, or, on Facebook,
right.
Any of that
and
stuff.
Just direct message you on either one of those.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm pretty good at getting back to people and stuff like that and everything. And then if they want to reach out to you, you can, that's great too.
I'll share you, of course, if they come to me and have a project or have something to involve you with. Absolutely.
And I also want to, before we go, I know we didn't mention them earlier, but two people that were somebody that was very helpful on was Bill Watson. I wanted to mention his name about the hockey, and Tom Stinder and those guys, real big supporters in Duluth. We appreciate you.
And you mentioned Ricky McManus, Shari Marshak, who's also the Film Commission. A couple of people have been watching, some commented, local people from Dave Nelson, who's our crew, is Crafty, another guy, Marcus, who did security. So a lot of people watched, and you mentioned, and there was so many people to be thankful for, and I think we were, and Bill was great. I had such
Davies, Tyler Carlson. I mean, there's I know
the names go on and on. We could do a whole
Charlie. There's so many.
Indeed, but we had a great time, and we made a lot of new friends, and that's the other great thing about what we get to do is we make friends wherever we go, and they and some of them last a lifetime, and some last for a while, but it's always a great time.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Mandy. Have a great one. I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you for coming on.
Guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. That was a very powerful show, I believe. Mandy, I think, shared a lot of messages of courage, never giving up, and just a lot of things that service, gratitude, treating people well. So if you haven't had a chance to watch it on it'll be on my YouTube, John Duffy Live Courageously YouTube channel. You can always watch it in the future, share it with other people. If you want to reach out to Mandy on any film projects, reach out to me, direct message me, and I can always share that with her. And once again, there's 20 Live Courageously podcasts. You can watch any or all of them, and hopefully join us again next week at 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock. I'll have 2 more guests on, and I'm going to try and step up and do a lot more of these this year. So everybody have a great time. Thank you. May you make your life a masterpiece.